Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I have the best job ever. I get to help you open to your gifts and your abilities and connect with the angels and more. I offer one-on-one angel sessions, which are lovely. We meet over the phone. Each session is an hour long, and it's meant to be a conversation in consciousness. And I bring forward messages from the angels for you and help you connect with your divine guidance because, yes, you are a divine and wise being. And if you're interested in scheduling your own session, you can go on over to my website, illuminatingsouls.com. And I usually can schedule a session for you within about a week's time. So there's not a long waiting list. I also offer soul mentoring, which provides for consistent support as you go through a time of growth or change. And we start off with a 12-week package, which sounds like a long time, but most of the people who sign up for mentoring stay with me far longer than that because they find the value in having a sanctuary to come to every week to help move through whatever it is they're experiencing in life. And I do have 1 or 2 spots open for soul mentoring, so if you're interested in that, you also can visit me at my website. And then I offer a variety of classes. I always have something new coming up. About every 4 to 6 weeks, I have a new class or gathering that I offer. I actually just completed a lovely workshop for the new year where we met on New Year's Eve day, and we met again on New Year's Day on Zoom, and it was wonderful. So again, if you sign up for my mailing list, you'll be in the know of whatever I have coming up for you. I love getting to connect with you. I love getting to support you. So there are many ways for us to connect outside of this podcast. And I am so grateful you are listening. I feel our beautiful community every time I come to this microphone. I feel you in my heart in the most wonderful of ways. And so I want you to know that as you are listening, that the love is flowing through for you. And if you are enjoying the podcast, I have a gentle ask for you, which is if you would consider sharing this with a friend. We grow our community by word of mouth. So if you have someone that you think would enjoy this podcast, if you will share that with them, that would be awesome. And also if you will leave a review or a rating, that would be great too. I'm all about organic growth. And so we as a community, we love to share our light and love in the world. And so anything you can do to help ripple the goodness is much appreciated. And for now, The angels and I are here to help you come in to a sweet, calm, soothing space where you can rest and receive the love. As most of you know, this podcast is born out of my love for sleep podcasts and my love of the angels. They are two of my favorite forms of self-care. And so this podcast is a unusual mashup of two of the things that I love most in self-care. So yes, I listen to a sleep podcast every night. It's really funny. I was trying to decide what I was going to read to you tonight. Rather than picking a story from my own life, I knew I wanted to share something with you. I wanted to read something to you. And I don't know, I felt like I wanted to read a travel log of some kind. And I know that months ago I read to you from a Sunset magazine from 1900, I think it was. And I had gone back to it. I mean, there was no way I read to you the entire magazine because it's not a singular magazine. Rather, it's a compendium of 6 months of issues. And so I've been trying to listen to the episode I recorded months ago so that I could get a sense on what I read in that episode. And I keep falling asleep. So at some point we will revisit that publication again, not tonight, but it's just my testimony that the podcast absolutely puts me to sleep as well. So I don't know what I read to you back in that episode, but it is definitely snooze-worthy. I have no idea what I talked about in that episode, and I've tried listening to it twice so far and slept through it both times. So I find sleep podcasts just to be a lovely invitation for my mind to have a gentle focal point and ultimately to drift off into that beautiful mystery of sleep. I love sleep. I love bedtime. I have a lovely waking life. I don't want to make it sound like I only like life when I am horizontal in bed. But there is this deliciousness that I experience when I start getting tired in the evening. And I know that it is time for me to go to sleep. And I will say the past week, it is coming for me earlier and earlier. On New Year's Eve, I was in bed by 7:30. I just was so tired. And I'm usually up by 3 or 4 in the morning. I don't actually get out of bed, but I am awake by that point. So it's not as strange as it sounds. I'm just surrendering to my circadian rhythm. So wherever you are in your sleep cycle, if you are a night owl, or if you go to bed early like I do, or maybe you work the night shift and you sleep during the day, this podcast is here to help you open to the waves of love that are here for you. The angels are divine celestial beings, and they are here to support and love us. I do not experience them as affiliated with any singular religion, so I experience them as non-denominational. I believe that every molecule in this universe is loved. I feel like love is the engine that allows for life to blossom open. And so my hope is simply by listening and being in this energy field, you will receive this love too. And the truth is, you are always receiving this love. So perhaps a better way to say that is you will be aware of the love you are receiving. You see, in those times when you can't find the love and you are not feeling the divine connection, it does not mean that the love and the connection are not with you. It simply means that whatever is going on is causing you not to perceive it. So these podcasts, my hope is they serve as an oasis for you, as a sweet reminder that this love is present for you. And just so you know, there's no expectation that you remember this all the time. I don't remember this all the time. This is my career. I teach classes, facilitate sessions, and write angel messages for people all the time. And yet, when I am in my earth girl material, that means I'm overwhelmed, I'm sad, I'm anxious, that whatever is going on in my life has me feeling oh so earthly. It's not uncommon for my husband to ask me very gently, have you talked to your friends yet? And that is code for, have I talked to the angels about whatever it is that is causing me upset? And my answer is almost always no, because we all live in a duality of life. I call it my earth girl self and my practitioner self. And I don't always remember. I'm not in a 24/7 conversation with the angels, because this is meant to be our lifetime. This is a lifetime of free will. We get to choose. And life has an ebb and flow. We have good days and we have not so good days. We have days when we feel connected with our gifts and our abilities. And we have days when we forget who we are. And so this podcast, I hope, is something that can be a constant for you, where perhaps a few times a week you can come to this broadcast and hear this gentle reminder that you are loved and that you are precious in this world, that you are a divine being having a human experience, and you have a team of angels and guides who love you. And so I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and out, and allow this love to flow through for you. So we're going to be together for about an hour. The first part of the episode usually lasts somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes, and that's when I bring the angels forward for you. And then the second part of the episode, I usually will read you a story or tell you a story from my life. And so that provides for lots of time for you to relax and drift off. And through it all, the angels are with you, shining love, light, and healing upon you. So I'm going to call the angels in to be with us. They are already here, but I love sharing the ritual with you. So I'm going to take a deep breath in with you, just allowing ourselves to come forward into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. I ask that you cultivate a beautiful sense of divine sanctuary for each of our beloveds listening to this message. I ask that you bring them soothing, calming, loving frequencies to help them come into a beautiful expanse of rest. And angels, I ask that you infuse each one of us with sparks of inspiration, helping us to connect with our divine knowingness as we move forward on our life's path. And I also ask that you sprinkle blessings upon our path, that in the coming days and weeks, we experience lightness of spirit. We have moments of serendipity, that we have moments of awareness where we experience a revelation and a knowing of how to move forward, that resources show up within us and around us, and we are gently guided on our life's path in service to experiencing authentic fulfillment and joy. So, dear ones, just take some deep breaths in, allowing yourself to receive this attunement from your divine team. I ask and I affirm that for each one of us, that the coming days will come with beautiful insights. You know, those experiences where you have this inspiration and you think to yourself, you know what I should do? I should, and then you fill in the blank. I should go on a road trip. I should call a friend. Or you suddenly know exactly what it is you want to write and you just can't stop writing because something beautiful is pouring through you. Or all of a sudden, something is lifted from you and perhaps it is easier for you to forgive, or something that had felt heavy to you no longer feels that way. These are all ways that the angels help us move forward in life. So I don't know about you, but I am totally open for these moments of divine grace. I call in lightness of spirit. I ask that the angels help each one of us flourish and blossom open in wonderful ways that will delight us, body, mind, and spirit. So take another deep breath in, receiving this love, receiving this prayer, opening your heart to brighter tomorrows. I affirm something wonderful is being seeded right now for each one of us. And we'll breathe together and open our hearts and receive the love of the divine. Thank you for the blessing that you are in this world. Thank you for the light that you shine. Truly, this world is better because you are here. And I am so deeply grateful for this opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate you in this moment. So, dear ones, just allow yourself to receive the love that is flowing for you. And if you are preparing for sleep, I invite you to just drift off whenever your consciousness is ready to let go. And while you rest, your angels will take good care of you and they will watch over you. And now I'm going to read to you a story for a little while. As I mentioned earlier, I really love the idea of sharing some of the travel logs with you. So I don't know if you know this or not, but anything that was written in 1927 or earlier is in the public domain here in the United States. And so I can share that with you. I can read to you from different magazines and books. And since we just rolled into 2023, everything that was published in 1927 has now come into public domain. So what I'm going to share with you is a publication called California for the Tourist, published in 1910 by the Southern Pacific Railway. Here's what I find so fascinating about it. And if you live outside of the U.S., this may be an interesting awareness for you. So in other parts of the world, in other countries, the UK, Greece, France, the Middle East, these are countries that are centuries old, that it's not unusual to have cities that have been present for hundreds of years. But the United States is a relatively new country, and especially the West Coast is relatively new, comparatively speaking. And I've always found that fascinating. So in 1910, much of California was yet to be developed in the way that we know it now. And I just find that so interesting that a little over 100 years ago, the places that are now developed and populated were very rural. So I don't know, I find this so interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading this with you. And the publication opens with a color image, which was unusual back then. And we have a woman in a white dress and an orange hat with these orange flowers standing on a meadow in front of the ocean, a very California kind of look. There is a table of contents where they talk about all the different areas we're going to visit, including Alameda, Catalina, Los Angeles. So we're going to go all up and down the coast, not in this singular episode, but perhaps over time we will go through this together. And it starts with the charm of the land of sunshine by summit, sea, and shore. And I should say it's Southern Pacific. They're not Southern Pacific Railroad yet, which makes sense because at that point, that was really the only way you were going to travel, either by horse or train, because airplanes and cars weren't really a thing back then. And they also have a gorgeous photograph of Yosemite Falls. And now we start with the opening, California for the Tourist. The charm of California is recognized across the traveled world. It is a charm not merely of attraction, but of persistence, often of compulsion. He who once comes within its influence usually returns, and often remains in permanent and willing fascination. And I can say that is what happened for me. I came to Los Angeles when I was 23 years old on vacation, and a few months later I moved out here, and I've lived here ever since, except for 1 year in New York, which I don't like to think about. But I've been out here ever since. Climate, that will-o'-the-wisp that had led travelers in search of comfort or health, a weary chase over many lands, comes closest to the ideal in California. Had the search of Ponce de Leon had been for a climate of perpetual health rather than a fountain of eternal youth, Success would have crowned his efforts could he have persevered to the western shores. The 1,000 miles of length of California, with the sea as one border and the mountains as another, the 300 miles of varying topography between the borders, northward where the state touches the region of the pine and fir, southward where the palm is king, holds varieties of climate that are yet of strangely equable temperature, from the bracing airs of the sea-coast, where the year finds an average of 56 degrees, to the drier airs of the inland valleys and the glorious climate of the mountains. The general average is about 62 degrees. Through and throughout the land may be found occasional touches of night frost, merely friendly nips, and at times the thermometer may reach 90 degrees at Los Angeles and in the great central valley of the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers, close around the century mark, although the air is dry and the heat tolerable. And I will say that is one of the things that I have loved about California, is we really do not have much in the way of humidity. To briefly describe the climate is to announce the 300 days of sunshine that make brilliant every year, to say nothing of the wonderful star-set moonlit nights, with every day and night of the year such as to make outdoor living enjoyable. Charm to make one hasten westward from the sweltering summer to where cool sea breezes play above gentle surf and sandy beach and whisper through shady boughs above clear watercourses. Charm to set one searching for summer clothes for winter wear in a land where December is only known by the calendar, and where at Christmas and New Year's they throw roses instead of snowballs, and wind up with an ocean dip as a cooler. For the greater number of pleasure places, San Francisco is the natural center and has been so adopted, while for those of Southern California, Los Angeles, round which they radiate, is made the hub. The way to California is easy. From the Orient come palatial steamers. Across the continent are two main highways, one following the trail of the pioneers straight across the prairies and through the mountains to San Francisco by the overland route, the other through the Southland by way of New Orleans, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona to Los Angeles and San Francisco, the Sunset Route. The Shasta route by Portland, Tacoma, and Seattle connects with the northern lines, and via Vancouver and Victoria with the Canadian Pacific. All along roads run perfectly appointed trains, and their prototypes are on the tributary roads that inveigh the state and make its travel a part of the charm of California. And now we have our first chapter, which is San Francisco and its environs. On the afternoon of Thanksgiving Day, 1910, a hummingbird made fiesta amid the geraniums in the window boxes of the Bohemian Club of San Francisco. There is an object lesson on winter climate. In the summer evenings, furs and coats are appreciably necessary to motorists in the glorious Golden Gate Park and along the Ocean Boulevard. So much for the summer weather. On New Year's Day, the members of the Olympic Club, young and old, jog leisurely out near the Cliff House and plunge into the surf, not out of bravado, but from pleasant custom. The temperature of the surf on that day is usually about 60 degrees. In summer, the temperature averages in July 57 degrees, in June 56, in August 58, and in September and October, warmest months of the year, 60 degrees. For 30 years, the mean temperature shows 60 degrees, with the greatest variation in the same period of 18 degrees. Summer in San Francisco with the sea breeze blowing through the city from ocean to bay, when in other cities the pavements and walls are as the sides of an oven, when those who stay in town are miserable from hot working days and breathless, sleepless nights, when amusements languish and soda fountains flourish on the sails of alluring but deceitful comforts, is a season of delight. The attractions that have left dark the New York theaters give San Francisco mid-year programs that are far better than those of any American city. There is no fresh air fund needed, no ice famine is existent, nor is sleeping on the housetops necessary. And I just have to reflect that how meaningful this would be, because there really was no air conditioning back then. You know, back east and in the south, it would be so hot in the summer. It would be almost unbearable. So when they refer to people sleeping on their roofs, that's why. So this is one of the enchanting things about San Francisco, is it's always cool. So we go on. California, as a winter resort, hardly needs heralding, but its midsummer attractiveness is less widely known. Many great conventions are held now in the state as its climactic pleasures are told by those who have enjoyed them. The great majority of tourists to California enter it from the east of the Rocky Mountains by the overland route, straight across plains and mountains following the old westward trails of the pioneers and the Mormons. The lines of steel are halted by the waters of San Francisco Bay here, 3 miles in width. To avoid a long southern detour around the head of the bay, the train, leaving the prosperous city of Oakland, rail terminal of the overland route, goes to sea on a pier that stretches for a mile into the deep waters of the bay. At the pier head waits for a commodious ferry. 2 miles away, San Francisco piles up impressively on its 100 hills that even at this distance bristle with the tall buildings of the business section. At night, the lights twinkle a cheery welcome across the water, while the passing craft with their reflected electrics seem like fairy craft. To the eastern visitor, the vast harbor, a sea-filled valley with its mountain tops rising as islands from its depths and forming an undulating rim about it, the terraced cities of the shore, the craft of all sizes, shapes, and variations that ply its waters. A blue sky above, the bluer waters beneath, the gulls that navigate the clear wind roads between them, hold an emphatically foreign suggestion. On sunny days for San Francisco has an average of 300 days of sunshine every year. The white cities, verdant hills, tree-set many of them, others gilded in sun or purple in the shade, bring memories of Mediterranean travel. Here centers the commerce of the Orient, the Arctic, the South Seas, and the southern western Americas. Great factories line the deep water shores north of Oakland, and their products are shipped around the earth. Here visit the navies of a dozen flags. At times, San Francisco streets see the stalwart sailors and Marines of Great Britain, Germany, Holland, France, Italy, Japan, and America in a friendly rivalry of parade. The mercantile shipping displays the bunting of the world's waterways. Its cargoes suggest the naming of the Golden Gate from the wealth of the Argosies, Argosies, that passed through it rather than the glory of the western sky behind it as seen from the shore at sunset. The Golden Gate has an entrance that is a mile in width, and through its straits a powerful current ebbs and flows so strongly that at Sacramento, 130 miles away up the Sacramento River, there is a tidal rise and fall of several inches. The inland sea, for such it really is, stretches north and south in two great arms, the northern being again divided by the narrow but deep straits of Carquinez in two sections. The water area covers more than 250 miles, of which a tenth is in immediate vicinity of San Francisco, lying as it does at the head of the long peninsula that backs the southern portal of the gate, and is used as anchorages exclusive of 7 miles of fairways. 40 square miles more of anchor ground are available close by in San Francisco Bay, in the southern arm, and in the northern stretches. And it goes on to describe the waterways, and even though this is a sleep podcast, that is a little bit boring, unless, of course, you are interested in maritime information. But I'm going to skip to something a little more interesting in case you are awake and would like at least a small amount of entertainment. So we're going to move forward. As the hub of many short excursions of delight, aside from being the metropolis of the Pacific Slope and coupled with the attractiveness of its climate, San Francisco is a city of many hotels and famous ones. The Palace has been well known in its way as Shepheard's at Cairo or the Cecil in London. Time was when it was the big hotel of the city. Now the Fairmont on the Hill and the St. Francis facing Union Square in its very center of things civic share the glories of the Palace as places containing the last achievements for comfortable splendor. There are hundreds of hotels in the city suiting all pretensions and purses, but all new, all modern, capable of accommodating 50,000 guests. The edible side of things is never to be despised, and San Francisco has ever been famous for the tempting bills of fare displayed by its restaurants and hotels, and for the way its chefs prepare them. With the land growing delicious fruit and vegetables at first hand that are elsewhere secured, either after maturing on their journey or canned, with the sea swarming with delectable fishes, it is no hard matter to acquiesce in the enthusiasm of epicures for San Francisco menus. It remains only to decide upon styles of cooking, and in California there are many. Aside from the famous chefs at the big hotels, there are French restaurants noted for famous dishes, Italian restaurants where the mysteries and methods of eating ravioli, spaghetti, and taglierne are solved, Chinese restaurants where one can order as if in Canton, restaurants Spanish, Greek, and Japanese, all of them good, many of them famous. Here, too, can and should be acquired the patriotic and excellent taste for drinking wines of California vintage. All the large restaurants have orchestras with excellent leaders, for San Francisco prides itself upon its taste in matters musical, remembering its early appreciation of La Boheme, the opera, and Tetrazzini, the prima donna, before either had been acclaimed by the world at large. The hours from dinner until after the last post-theater party has departed are always busy with a brilliant bohemianism in San Francisco cafes, from Sanguinetti's on the waterfront to the ivory and gold rooms of the big hotels, where are Paris gowns and Paris hats and the friendly rivalry of the socially elect. As a pleasure-loving citizen, the native son of the Golden Gate is of the first water. Parades, marathons, aviation and motor meets racing and sport of any kind, holidays and any excuse for letting off superfluous vitality never go a-begging. On New Year's Day in California, laughing crowds in summer dresses play at snowballs with roses, and in San Francisco on New Year's Eve the streets and hallways are deep in confetti, drift crowds waltz and two-step on the avenues. Every cafe is entwined with rainbows of serpentine, while laughter and cordial greetings drown even the noise of the cowbells that hideous custom has made the inevitable accompaniment of holiday chivarari. Charivari. Okay, well, we're just going to move on. That is the reason conventions flock to California, why aviation records are broken here. So maybe there were planes happening at that point. Why California's welcome to the fleet is still a wardroom word on the ships of all navies. Why in April 1910, over $4 million were subscribed for the Panama Pacific Exposition in 1915 in less than 3 hours. Well, seeing as that we just made it through New Year's Day and New Year's Eve, that's interesting. And it was cold and rainy here on New Year's Eve, so not so nice this year. But anyways, that's what we could have expected back then. It is vigorous, this spirit of enthusiasm. It infects the most casual visitor with the desire to see and do, and then provides the entertainment. The zest of carnival never entirely dies between celebrations. The lofty buildings of Market Street make it a canyon of shade on one side and sunshine on the other, swarming with the gay throng strolling and shopping. Continual performance theaters invite with orchestrations and glimpses of moving pictures from within. Flower vendors make brilliant patches of perfumed color. The street is awhir with cars and automobiles. Big sightseeing motors megaphone their way out to the Cliff House and the park, the whole a brilliant panorama of life, energy, enjoyment. At night, electrics that rival Broadway emphasize the scene. So I guess people were driving cars back then. I don't know why I thought that. Perhaps not, but what do I know? Okay, we'll keep going. San Francisco's shopping district parallels that of any world city, from cotton prints to imported gowns to diamond necklaces. It has excellent theaters and shares with New York all the successes. In summer, the bills show greater attractions from closed houses in the East than any American city, while at the beautiful Greek Theater at Berkeley, when Sarah Bernhardt in Phaedra or Maud Adams in As You Like It, by moonlight, enchant the alfresco audiences, there is a sensation found, a dramatic note reached that are unique. Libraries, museums, art schools, government buildings all furnish their share of entertainment. The social life is brilliant and hospitable. The clubs numerous, including the famous Bohemian Club, with its artists, musics, and men of letters, and its annual pageants in a redwood grove. The Olympic Club, with its membership devoted to athletes and those of athletic tendencies. Besides are the aristocratic Pacific Union, the Army and Navy, the University, the Family, the Press, the Cosmos, the Century, Town and Country, the California for Women, and the Sequoia for both sexes on the lines of a miniature Bohemian Club, the Spinners, the Sketch, and the Cirrhosis, of all dedicated to workers in the arts. All right, and then I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. It says San Francisco has sister cities on the bay of much commercial and social importance: Oakland, Berkeley, and Alameda. They're all on the mainland and contiguous, Oakland being the land terminal of the transcontinental lines to San Francisco. Between these cities themselves, most effectively served by local train service, and San Francisco, the ferries ply continually. Oakland, the handsome city that is the Brooklyn of the Pacific coast, was originally a great park of oak-shaded glades. Today it is a city of great present prominence and promise, with a population of over 250,000. It has important manufacturing and commercial interests, besides its valuable railroad connections, It has a fine deep water harbor, landlocked, 6 miles in length on its southern side. Oakland gardens are beautiful with flowers and trees, all climes giving contribution to the gardener's skill. Close to the Civic Center is Lake Merritt, where yachts and other pleasure craft disport beneath the windows of the city. A magnificent boulevard carries the motorist swiftly and smoothly into the countryside, miles of which have become populous and gathered in a continuous suburbanism of Oakland. Closer toward the Oakland Hills, clustering about the University of California, is Berkeley. The college occupies an ideal site and is an emphatic factor in California's educational and social life. Its plans are not all completed, and the scheme, when finished, will have involved the expenditure of $50 million. Mrs. Phoebe Hearst has been the chief benefactress of the college. William Randolph Hearst's generosity made possible the beautiful Greek theater, seating 10,000 people. It is modeled after the Greek theater of Epidaurus, called the most beautiful theater in the world. Here the plays of Sophocles and Euripides are reproduced by the students and concerts given in the open air. Bernhardt played Phaedra here, May 17, 1906, inspired by the perfection of her surroundings. The university has affiliated colleges of medicine, dentistry, law, and art in San Francisco, and an astronomical department on Mount Hamilton at the Lick Observatory. The present wealth of the college is very great, and it is absolutely without limit of sex, a university in the real meaning of the word. Stanford University at Palo Alto down the peninsula follows the same plan generally, while limiting its number of women students. The grounds bounded with clustering oaks are left in much of their natural beauty, looking straight into the sunset and at the Golden Gate. This beauty is shared by the many who have chosen Berkeley as their residence and who have added to the first-hand resources a wealth of shade and flowers. Everything grows all the year round here. High walls are covered with masses of vivid geraniums, and roses are everywhere. Palms thrive, and there are avenues of bananas. The whole section has a distinct air of refinement and social dignity. It extends well back into the Piedmont Hills, tree-crowned, flower-carpeted. And I just have to say I love Berkeley, and I go there frequently. It has beautiful places you can go hiking. It has an amazing supermarket called Berkeley Bowl, great restaurants, a lovely vibe. So I am a fan of Berkeley for sure. And we'll continue. So Alameda is separated from Oakland only by tidelands and is a chosen place of residence, having a climate quiet and warm in the sunshine that is present when localities more exposed to the ocean are fog-swathed or wind-whipped. It is actually an island with the bay on the south and Oakland estuary on the north. Here are fine beaches, boat clubs, hot and cold water bathing, and the carrying on of many aquatic and athletic sports. It has fine civic buildings and enterprises, and is a desirable and attractive place to live in. And so that ends the chapter about San Francisco. And I have to say, I didn't read this before I read it to you, and perhaps I should have, but it was a bit dull, wasn't it? For as lively and awesome as San Francisco is and was back then, whoever was writing this was really talking about the topography and the tides. Like, I would imagine if somebody is going to be going across the country on a train to San Francisco, they would be much more interested on where should I shop and where should I eat, what can I see. versus these long, boring descriptions of the tides and the waterways and all of that. I don't know. I can't get over how dry this was. I am actually now contemplating if this is episode worthy, but I will continue. I will go with it, because this could be just the perfect episode to put you to sleep, because there is nothing here really that will hold our attention for very long, right? So here we go. California for the Tourist, written by somebody who has a very dry way of writing about things that most people will not care deeply about. Especially when you think of how amazing San Francisco would be to visit, right? So here we go. There you go. Somebody's version of San Francisco, designed to get tourists out this way. I don't know that it would have made me travel. It's interesting as I reflect on this, the thing that they really sell is the weather, which would have absolutely spoken to me, because I would have been miserable in the summer had I had to live back east. You know, my husband and I, we're always watching some sort of period piece, right? And whenever there's a woman in a corset, you know, with one of those dresses where they're tied in, my husband always goes, "Oh, you'd look good in one of those." And I glare at him. I'm like, do you have any idea how bitchy and miserable I would be if I had to wear that thing? And if I had to wear that thing when there was no air conditioning, I could not have been gracious or nice to anybody. I am somebody who appreciates a climate-controlled environment where I get to be comfortable all the time. So I found that very interesting that they are so talking up the weather, which is really one of the best perks of living out here. So I hope this was not overly dull for you. Perhaps you are asleep now because it was relatively boring. But here we go. We've done it. We made it through the chapter on San Francisco. So if you were a tourist thinking about coming out here in 1910, this is what you would have been reading. And so, my beautiful friend, I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I am so deeply grateful for you. And we will talk again soon. Thank you.